Carl, hey, congratulations for Benny Loves You.
Thank you very much. Hi, Gig. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. After
Good.
watch after watching this film, I was just trying to figure out whether you had a lovable childhood or a disturbing childhood to make this movie.
I had a lovely upbringing. That's crazy, isn't it? But you often find that's the case, though, don't you? That I remember when people was interviewing David Cronenberg for the first time, they thought he was going to be a monster, and it turned out, oh God, he's actually a really nice, educated guy. But yeah, no, I had a really lovely upbringing, and I guess yeah, maybe that's why I wanted to show somebody that went through completely the opposite.
Well, it's an excellent fun movie, I do have to admit, and it's very original. So where did the idea came from?
So the idea came from a short film we made over 10 years ago with a little Elmo toy, and that was called Eddie Loves You. It was a much sort of simpler idea of the concept. It was just a guy that throws out his toy and it comes back to life and tries to kill him. And it went down very well at all the festivals. And there were certain things that I really liked about it. The thing that attracted me to it most was that it would have a voice box that could only say, you know, elements of joy and love, but it would just be taking out people with a knife. And to me, there was something inherently funny in that idea. So when it came to doing it as a feature film, you know, it needed a complete rewrite. And I wanted it to be that, you know, the bear comes back to protect his owner, and then there becomes a bit of a love triangle between him, Jack, and Jack's girlfriend. And I thought that had the potential for a feature, and it had, you know, much more nuance and elements that you could get into and have a lot more fun with that. So it was the idea of having something that had like a dog-like nature. That Benny was this kind of loyal, deeply, disturbingly loyal friend that would go to any lengths to make sure that nobody got in the way of their relationship.
Well, that's always the friends of little children, right? We always believe these dolls are loyal all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
exactly that. And I think you know, like I said, with Benny, I always thought that he would have the nature of a dog. That's how he was written. So it was that he'd have a very basic grasp of English, but he would always seek to do the right thing of what Jack told him. But then he's, you know, like when you tell a dog to sit, but then if a cat runs past in the garden, it's off. So it was that kind of thing for him, that he was, you know, Benny always had great intentions, but his understanding of English was limited, and his instincts would kind of always, and his emotions would always get the better of him.
tell me about the design of Benny and the other toys that you actually came up with. You guys must have had a lot of fun, you know, creating these concepts like a toy manufacturer.
Yeah. Well, like I say, he was partly inspired by Elmo, partly inspired by like a dog, partly inspired by a baby. I mean, I've got him here, so you know, just the huge eyes, like he's just been born. Like I say, the tooth is very baby-like, but it wasn't just in the way that he looked, but it was more importantly in the way that he moved. I wanted him to have and I wanted him to look like he was being piloted by a child, that a child was picked up the toy and was playing with the toy, not that he was moving his limbs of his own sort of free will, you know, like the way that Chucky moves. So he had to look very ragdolly, and that's sort of inbuilt into his personality. Again, that juxtaposition between something which looks like it's got no control over its movement, but can kill someone with absolute deadly accuracy, I thought was really funny. So that's very much part of built into his personality, the way that he looks. And the other toys, they were just little sketches that I did. I did most of the CG on the film myself, but I modeled Benny in 3D myself. But the other two robots in the film, I did some sketches, and I got a freelancer to just build the model in 3D, and then I animated them. So that came from just a couple of little sketches that I did, and you know, one of them had to be Jack's toy, which was a bit more rudimentary. You know, the little sort of disco robot, and Richard's toy would be, you know, a bit more like a Cylon. That's the way I looked. A bit more Battlestar Galactica infused.
Could you tell me about how you handled the puppetry for Benny? Was it CG? Was it CG, or did you actually like had puppetry movement like puppeteers?
It's 99% CG. There's maybe 3 shots in the film where he was puppeted, but that was just, you know, somebody with like a green screen sleeve on, just shaking him around. But that's not practical for most of it, like particularly if he needs to hold anything. Like I said, I've got Benny here, but you know, there was no animatronic, so if he's got his hand up and he's holding a knife, it's just going to fall back down. He couldn't, so it made sense that he would be CG for most of the movie. But I did say, before we actually made the film, I did a load of CG tests, because it was so important to me that it wasn't that distinguishable when we cut from the real bear to the animated one, because if it stuck out like a sore thumb, I think it ruins the movie. So, and then the second thing was the movement. I had to nail that sort of, you know, the wobbly, bouncy movement, and it had to look like it had been put on strings. And like I say, the interesting thing is we've had reviews with some people saying, oh, it's obviously CG, and other people saying, oh, clearly they just had a guy with a green screen just shaking it, it's really cheap, it's just on strings. So you think, oh well, we must have done okay then, if the reviews are being that nobody seems to really know how it was done. So yeah, but no, all CG for the movement.
Well, then speaking of the case, because you know this entire film from start to finish, so much blood, so much guts. Obviously, you probably used some CG in there, but were there some any practical effects also? You kind of use both.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of CG blood, but when you make a low budget film like ours, it's just an unfortunate reality that if you go into a space where you're not allowed to get blood up the wall, you're going to have to fake blood going up the wall. It's just, you know, unless you can build a set and do it that way. And there were instances in this where we had a mixture of both, because the house that we shot it in is a friend of mine, and he was actually staying in the house while we were filming it. He was in one of the rooms upstairs. So we had to be quiet while we were filming sometimes, but he actually said, like, for in the kitchen, he's like, oh yeah, if you want to get blood on the wall, you can, as long as you give it another coat of paint. So in certain situations, we got away with a lot of practical effects. There's a scene in the living room where there's quite a lot of blood, but if you actually notice in the movie, we've put like a cling film wrap on the door, so that, you know, the blood didn't stain the door. But because the shot's quite, you're not focused on that part, you don't notice it. So yeah, there's definitely a mixture. I would have gone completely practical if possible, but yeah, you need a bit more budget to be able to do that.
Well, then thank goodness you didn't destroy the house, right?
Yeah, well, I'd love to destroy the house. That's the thing. You know, that's what you want to do, but you have to think of ways around. That's the thing. If you're writing a horror comedy or set in a house, but you're not allowed to do anything with the house, you have to think in a different way. And you know, there's definitely CG smashing of windows and things like that, and some parts of the house I actually completely built in CG so we could do some things with them. But yeah, I would love to have been able to just have a big set like that and just trash it. We'd have had a load more fun. The
voice of Benny, was that yours?
Yes, it is. Again, just because I did the voice for the original, so it's me speaking in as high pitched voice as I can go, and then it's processed up another few octaves, I think, and then obviously given like an 8-bit kind of recording. I wanted it to sound like it had been. Do you remember? I mean, God, I used to have like a toy, and the voice box in it was almost like a disc, like a bit of vinyl. So when it played back, it would be really scratchy and really mono, you know, just this mono 8-bit sound almost coming out of that. So we added that to it as well, so it was sounding like it was coming from a voice box within someone. But yeah, it's just my voice for that.
How many times you actually said Benny loves you, and when did it get annoying to you?
Instantly. Yeah, well, I mean, it's annoying now, of course, because yeah, I've seen the film about 1 million times. That's the problem with editing, you know, shooting your own work, editing your own work, is by the time you get to the end of it, you're just like, oh my God, this is like, you can't find any of it funny anymore, or surprising, or shocking, or interesting. So you get tired of it pretty quickly. But you know, that's why we gave him other phrases. So he's got maybe about 12 different sayings that he has, because obviously if he just said that, it would be, you know, yeah, be incredibly painful to watch. But part of the fun was coming up with other things that he could say, which would give an indication to how he was feeling.
Yeah.
But they could be also sayings that were on the voice box, because he was never allowed to say anything that wasn't pre-recorded. So that meant we could open it up and give him a few more sayings, but obviously, yeah, Benny Loves You's the main one.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in the editing room. I'm hearing that over and over again.
You've no idea. You've no idea.
How did it come to the decision for you to star as Jack himself in the film, or did you always intended to do a fun film like this for yourself?
And it was just a financial decision there, and logistical as well. You know, we filmed it at my friend's house in Berkhamsted. He had maybe 3 spare rooms, and we had a crew of 3 or 4 people. And at the weekend, we'd maybe have 1 or 2 spare rooms that the actors could come down. So if I hadn't have been in the film, you know, 1, we would have had an extra mouth to feed, extra bills to pay, but we would have probably have to have put somebody up in a hotel nearby as well, and that would have skyrocketed the budget. So this was really just, yes, I wore lots of hats in the film, but you know, it wasn't really a vanity project. It was just, well, if I'm going to make a film, this is the only way that it's practically possible. You know, when you self-finance a movie, you're looking to get things done as cheaply as you can. So I just thought, well, I'll just write a character that's kind of, you know, Jack, in my opinion, you know, he's not the main, he's the protagonist, but he's not the star of the film. Benny's the star. And all of the actors that have what might you call very exaggerated personalities surround Jack and Dawn. So Jack was always written to be the everyman, because I felt like you needed somebody that was a bit more grounded, that could pull the audience through the film. You know, not everybody can be like an over-the-top caricature. So I thought, well, that's something that I can do. You know, it's not like I was, you know, I wasn't playing, you know, a disabled person with a southern accent. You know what I mean? It was probably the least challenging of all the acting roles. So I was like, I can do that. That's okay. And like I said, but the real star of the film is Benny.
Excellent. Well, hey, congratulations once again for Benny Loves You. I know a lot of horror fans would love to get to buy that doll somehow, but maybe that's something for you down the road.
We've got little ones.
That's right.
We've got little ones that we've done. Like. So yes, that's definitely something we've been looking at. It was never my intention, but the first time it screened at a film festival, we got about 50 requests of people saying, where can I buy a Benny toy? So we thought, well, okay, we'll look into it and we'll see where that goes. Obviously, when it's released in the US, we'll see if there's if anybody or nobody's interested, but it's definitely something that we're looking into now. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you very much for talking with me. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Bye now.